Katie, it's great to have you in the studio today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
You've joined ChinaAMC since 2018.
I want to be in a company that's locally engaged, locally rooted, and that's very invested in the local market.
You guys were the first to launch Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, now tokenized gold.
The innovative spirit is very much in its DNA.
We all have that stereotypical kind of thinking, oh, working with big bank is going to take a really long time.
What we're seeing is the major players are coming in. So it's having that regulatory clarity that provides the necessary confidence for participants to come in.
The clarity in Hong Kong.
Clarity in Hong Kong, for sure. Our market is moving towards instant access, it's moving towards atomic settlement. If you look at Hong Kong, if you look at US, they're all coming and joining this new journey.
Is there a big difference?
I think going to be the narrative for the next 3 to 5 years.
Welcome to the FTA HK podcast. I'm Stephanie Yuan, your host for today. Here, we explore the people and ideas pushing fintech into its next era. Today's guest is a leader in traditional finance, digital assets, and global markets shaping the future of financial systems in Asia. She's Katie He, Head of Strategic Business at ChinaAMC Hong Kong, where she has led major developments in ETFs, tokenization, and regulated digital assets. Her career spans across traditional finance and digital innovation and across continents in Toronto, London, and now Hong Kong. Katie, it's great to have you in the studio today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, Stephanie.
So I've known Katie for a few years, and because of this podcast, I got to know her even better. And what really fascinates me, it's really her background. It's a mixture of different cultures and different kind of experiences. Katie, maybe to kick off, you can share a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you've worked, and how you ended up in Hong Kong now.
So I spent my formative years in Chinese mainland. I'm from Chongqing, where I believe is becoming one of the most popular travel destinations right now. And I studied
Very hilly city.
Very hilly, very hot, very spicy, very up and coming. And I studied my primary school in Guangzhou, which is closer to Hong Kong. And I was there till 12, after which I moved to Canada with my family. And so I did all the way from middle school to university through my grad studies in Canada.
How was that, moving from Chinese mainland?
Right. So I think the whole experience really made me sort of a third culture kid, right? One foot in the East, the other one in the West. And that, I think, experience really shaped me into the type of person that I am. And I'll get into a lot of details later on. As a young professional in Canada, I really felt the urge of trying something new, getting out of my comfort zone. And so I made one of the, I would say, best decisions of my life, which was to move to London, UK, start the whole thing over again. I was there for 3 years. I worked in a different capacity. I worked for US Bank or Global Corporate Trust.
How did you end up in London? Did you have a plan for it? You looked for a job?
So it was an impromptu decision. I was actually visiting a friend who was traveling there. And I remember just standing in the middle of Piccadilly Circus and Bank, right, where Bank of England was. And I was thinking, this is where I need to be. And so right away, once I returned to Canada, I realized, it's easier for me to go to UK because there's a so-called working holiday scheme for young Canadians. And so right away, I applied for the visa. And in 2 months, I was already in London.
How did your friends, your family sort of take that suddenly uprooted yourself from Canada to different continent?
Yeah, I mean, I always grew up being quite independent, and that has to do with how I guess my parents were raising me as a kid. So I had a lot of autonomy in my choices, in my decisions. Of course, moving to London, it was unexpected for my family. I remember telling my mom over the phone, Mom, I want to go to London. And she said, oh, for how long? I said, no, I want to move there. But luckily, I had her full support. So I was fortunate enough. So I essentially went on a work visa and I managed to find a job. Again, very lucky. I think this whole journey was I was lucky. I had a lot of friends that helped me to set up my new life in London. Obviously, I was completely, entirely drawn to the city itself. It's a very dynamic city. There's a lot of things happening in terms of culture, arts. It's a big financial center as
So
well.
what brought you to Hong Kong? You were only there for 3 years.
Yeah. So again, back to my narrative of always wanting to try something different. So I guess apart from the personal reason side of things, I was always kind of captivated by how things are moving so fast and growing so rapidly in Asia, especially Greater China region. And obviously Hong Kong is sort of the center of that motion. And so I, again, took the leap of faith. I moved back in 2018. And so I've been here since then. I've been working with ChinaAMC Hong Kong since then.
So we've heard Canada, London, you were working in traditional finance, but as we were chatting, actually you were more an artsy person, that you were into Chinese calligraphy, you're a pianist.
Yeah.
Why finance?
It's interesting. I did grow up in a very artistic, very musical kind of environment. Obviously, I grew up like a lot of Asian kids. I play instruments, so I grew up playing piano, clarinet. I did a bit of violin. I did a lot of paintings, and that's what you would find me doing during summer. And in fact, during high school, I actually was working part-time as a pianist at a piano bar over summer holiday. And also I had a few wedding gigs as well. So that was quite
Been a very different career.
Yes, very different. And in fact, at one point, I almost wanted to pursue this professionally as a musical kind of route. But then, interestingly enough, in the senior years of high school, I was exposed to certain management, marketing, finance, or accounting courses where it really clicked for me. And on the side, there was this program called Junior Achievement, where I think still running today here in Hong Kong as well. It's basically a program that allows young students to engage in a very immersive experience working with working professionals to really get a taste of what it's like to work in a corporate setting. And I remember thinking, it'd be really cool for me to kind of eventually become this, corporate businesswoman type, right? So, when the university applications came, I just went for some of the business schools and the accounting studies, and the rest is history.
But what's interesting, it's so far what we've heard, it's you're very curious. You've tried different cities, you've tried different jobs, but you've joined China AMC since 2018 and been there for quite a long time. So there must be a reason. Maybe share with us a little bit more about China AMC for those who don't know. Obviously, it's one of the largest China onshore asset managers, but you started out in the Hong Kong office, part of its offshore business.
Yeah.
What attracted you to join China AMC? What made you stay there for so long? For someone who always kind of has a bug for something new,
Yeah.
how has your role evolved over
Yeah.
the years?
So when I moved to Hong Kong and I thought, since I'm here, I'm in the East, I want to be in a company that's locally kind of engaged, locally rooted, and that's very invested in the local market. And so ChinaAMC, of course, it's been in Hong Kong since 2008. We've been 18 years. And in fact, the innovative spirit is very much in its DNA. So we were actually one of the first asset managers to have presence in Hong Kong from a Chinese background. And in terms of innovation, we actually launched the very first ETF in China back in 2004.
Which one was that?
It was the SSE 50 ETF. So we launched that in 2004. But obviously, aside from that, speaking from the Hong Kong perspective, we've been just on this whole journey of innovating. So from mutual funds, we launched the first kind of flagship equity product back in 2009. And then obviously we embarked on the ETF business as well. We run one of the most active ETF franchises in Hong Kong. And so the first QFII ETF, we actually launched it here in Hong Kong. CSI 300 is still one of the largest, most liquid China A ETF you can find globally. And obviously, since I joined 8 years ago, we did so much innovation, leveraging inverse, fixed income. Now, more recently, I guess the focus has been digital assets. So we launched crypto ETFs, physical, Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum ETF, first in Asia. And also, we've been innovating a lot on tokenization, as you know. We've tokenized Asia's first and largest tokenized money market suite with their currencies. And just about 3 weeks ago, we tokenized a gold ETF as well. And that's very much in line with what the Hong Kong government is trying to pursue, right? Building a gold trading center and as well as a kind of digital asset center. And so going back to my point about locally invested, a lot of our growth has been riding on so much of these policy directions that are set out by the Hong Kong government.
You guys were the first to launch Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, the tokenized money market funds across 3 currencies, now tokenized gold. I'm curious, what is the secret sauce for you guys to always be the first? I'm sure there are tons of people also want to be the first, but you guys always comes out on top. And obviously, all of us who work in this industry trying to kind of drive innovation know it's not easy. There are challenges. What's the secret sauce of how you guys can continuously rise up on the top?
Right. I think it comes down to a few elements, more strategic level and then tactical level. So on the strategic level, it's about defining the right direction or pinpointing the macro trends, because macro shifts will ultimately kind of ripple down to investment decisions. It will come down to capital flows and what clients are looking for.
But Katie, when you develop products, is this how you guys do it? You try to foresee what's the demand and instead of just sort of, oh, my client's asking for this or people doing something like this and we'll launch it. And that's why you guys are always kind of innovative.
Client demands are very critical, of course, because ultimately we're serving our clients. But how do we think ahead? And how do we ensure that we have products available when they're needed? So that's why you need to think ahead. That's why you need to pinpoint the trends before they're fully apparent. And so I think one of the convictions obviously we had is that our financial infrastructure is ultimately kind of moving on chain. If you look back in history, you know, we often allude to things like the last innovation that we had was ETF, right? And before that, it was our mutual fund. All of a sudden, you have a wrapper that was exchange traded. You can trade it throughout the day. But outside of financial market, obviously, we look at things like electricity that did it for energy transfer. We had an internet, right? That, you know, obviously that was Web 2, but it changes everything for information sharing. And now we have Web 3, and underpinning that is really tokenization, is blockchain. And so for finance, we see it really as a fundamental change for the underlying infrastructure.
So you guys don't think it's hype. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
I know you guys are part of the HKMA's kind of sandbox when it comes to tokenization. Tokenization is part of HKMA's START strategy, Fintech 2030 roadmap. So from your perspective, you guys think this is kind of the next big innovation and kind of like infrastructure?
No, as I said, the blockchain technology is, I think, ultimately, right, our market is moving towards instant access, is moving towards atomic settlement. It's just a natural progression of markets. So, you know, what we've been doing here is preparing the asset side to really serve the on-chain ecosystem that is already forming. And so we're spending time tokenizing funds, we're bringing yield products, we're bringing other kind of outcome onto the on-chain ecosystem. But on the other hand, I think we need to also pay attention to the payment side of things as well. So I'm talking about digital currencies, because the ecosystem is not complete without both the asset leg and the cash leg. And so obviously there is a lot of progression happening here with digital currencies, regulated digital currencies, EHKD, CBDC, tokenized deposit, and then stablecoin, which we should see in circulation very soon this year. And so once you have these kind of digital currencies circulated and being used in day-to-day or kind of both institutional trading, settlement kind of processes, clients will naturally want to see products that can channel some of these use cases. So that's exactly where we come in.
But obviously, we've seen great developments, but compared to the existing legacy system, it's still kind of small, obviously growing segment. What do you think are the current challenges and what else needs to be done for the industry to really prosper?
I think we're at a very good spot because I think several factors are aligning. Of course, there's increasing regulatory clarity around the asset side, around distribution, around now stablecoins legislated, and custody, trading, for example. So it's having that regulatory clarity that provides the necessary confidence for participants to come in.
The clarity in Hong Kong.
Clarity in Hong Kong, for sure.
That's part of the reason why you guys investing so much resource then, because you feel like there is clarity for you guys to put your legs, like a vote of confidence in this.
I think we're at a pretty nice spot. We're at a pivotal point, actually, when it comes to really scaling tokenization. Firstly, while Hong Kong, it's a very strategic, advantaged city or region because obviously it's a kind of a super connector to mainland China with the rest of the world. It's a growing treasury center. It's a main hub within the APAC region. So a lot of use cases in which, digital currencies could prevail. And secondly, there's increasing regulatory clarity around things like assets, custody, trading, and on the digital currency side of things as well.
Actually, it's very interesting. I see you work with a lot of different types of kind of service providers, whether it's fintech or it's traditional banks. Recently, the tokenized gold is with a very large traditional banks.
Yeah.
How do you see that ecosystem evolving, the different players that you partner with?
Well, because we are operated under the kind of regulatory framework, we need to work with regulated entities. And what we're seeing is the major players are coming in. So, for example, we work with Standard Chartered Bank for all of our tokenized suite products for across, custody, traditional, as well as the token custody. And we leverage your tokenization capabilities as well. But aside from that, we're working very closely with some of the digital native firms. For example, chains, foundations, VATPs who are licensed to operate in Hong Kong.
Is there a big difference? Like we all have that stereotypical kind of thinking, working with big banks is going to take a really long time. How was your experience working with big FIs on these kind of very innovative projects?
It's quite apparent that the so-called traditional financial institutions are moving fast as well.
Okay.
So that's why we decided to work with like-minded institutions who really want to push through innovation. I think it's happening across the board. If you look at Hong Kong, if you look at US, places like Europe, all the leading kind of whether traditional asset managers or financials like banks, custodies, they're all coming and joining this new journey.
But when you look at client demand, are you seeing again, stereotypical, it's just the crypto retail traders?
Yeah.
Or you're also seeing institutional clients really dipping their toes in this? Or you're seeing family offices? How do you see the split of demand? Has things changed over the years?
So two parts, really. On the digital asset ETFs, it's really a mixture of both institutions and retail because both these segments are increasingly recognizing the diversification benefits of having some sort of digital asset allocation in their portfolios.
So they see it's part of the default asset allocation to have some of that.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Okay. But we're seeing that happening. But on tokenization, it's kind of a different narrative. Obviously, the proposition of tokenization is very clear. It's very powerful technology, streamlines costs, removes a lot of intermediate friction. So for institutional clients, that's really a net value add, especially when it comes down to corporate treasury clients who are looking for capital efficiency overnight, reducing that gap risk. And so we've been receiving a lot of traction from corporate clients for our tokenized money market fund, just because they can operate more seamlessly with some of these digital currencies that they currently use. But aside from that, surprisingly, we've been getting a lot of interest from retail clients as well through working with fintech platforms, some of these brokers who are more digital native. Clients are actually very keen to get on board and have a taste of what tokenization is all about. But for us, the key is to really ensure there's a true value add for tokenizing something. One of the things that we're working on now is enabling a 24/7 trading environment for these tokenized money market funds. And that is a real step up from the existing trading arrangement that you have on things like HKEX. And so this is hopefully will be launched in the second half of this year, which is very soon. And from there, again, we're moving closer to real-time access. We're moving to atomic settlement, and just, I think, going to be the narrative for the next 3 to 5 years.
But from my experience, even though you have something that obviously there's value, human by nature is lazy. We're sticky with our habits.
Yeah.
Do you see kind of this is a sticky point, like you need to really educate your clients exactly what is the value proposition? Is there a difference between retail or insti, or you have to really convince a finance team to kind of why they need to use these kind of new products that you bring into the market?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's something that, asset producers or asset manufacturers need to face when you innovate something that's never seen before. So what we realized is that a lot of clients still conflate, the concepts around digital currency, digital assets, crypto, tokenization. And so we've been doing a lot of educations around that. And secondly, what we try to tell institutional clients is that the tokenization layer is only, kind of a wrapper. The underlying asset, the risk profile remains very much the same. And so, you just need to repeat this kind of educational process. And that is precisely what, we look forward to working with the Fintech Association on really passing on and just distributing these messages.
Well, the next question I want to ask is something very close to heart to me. Today we're two ladies chatting, and I think what's kind of interesting about and unique about ChinaAMC, actually your group CEO, Li Meizong, it's also one of the very rare Chinese asset manager CEOs who's a female. So just curious, kind of dive into this kind of different topic of kind of female leaders in the industry. How has your experience being a female leader in the industry what do you think it's the unique qualities of being a female in maybe a room of men?
Yeah, so I think being a female leader is often carries really a different lens. It's about being more collaborative. It's about being attuned to the people behind the lens and really just listening before making decisions. And that does not mean being soft. It means really about building trust. Right. So we talked about Yimei. Obviously, I think having that representation really matters because, having her sort of as the top leadership really sends a powerful signal to all the young professionals that there is a seat at a table for them. And so at the end of the day, I think, having that diversity in organization, in the boardroom, really adds, value add in terms of decision making for any organization.
It's wonderful to hear. Moving to Hong Kong, everyone's celebrating the news that we recently became the global largest offshore wealth center. And I know ChinaAMC, you guys uses Hong Kong as your kind of international HQ as a hub for your offshore business. What do you guys think about the development of the wealth industry in Hong Kong? Where are you seeing kind of demand? What are clients looking for? Are they interested in more of your traditional products, or are they also dabbling into kind of your more innovative products as well?
Yes, when it comes to high net worth, family office, sophisticated clients, we're definitely seeing a consensus that allocating in digital assets is beneficial for any portfolios, whether because it's low correlation to traditional assets or as inflation hedge. And so I remember seeing this figure that over 80% of high net worth in Asia have already certain allocation in crypto assets. And we're seeing that for our ETFs as well, because for some of these more conservative family offices, ETFs as regulated vehicles are the preferred ways to have crypto assets. And so key part of what we're doing now is looking at diversifying our crypto ETF suite and looking at additional coins in addition to the one we already have, and hopefully having more allocation options for this whole segment.
Absolutely. I think given kind of the incidents that has happened over the years, kind of investing via a regulated kind of vehicle gives people a vote of confidence and comfort that the money's not going to go away. So Katie, as we go back to the beginning of this episode, you've lived in different places, but sounds like you quite like Hong Kong. You've been here since 2018. So for someone who's considering moving to Hong Kong, tell us what's the charm of Hong Kong?
Yeah, I guess what drew me to Hong Kong is really the fact that it's so balanced, right? So you have a bit of the tradition, and then you have the cosmopolitan side of things. You have the nature, you have the amazing hiking trails, the islands,
the beaches.
Yeah. And then at the same time, you have one of the busiest financial centers, central, right? And so in a city like this, especially given all the surrounding macro kind of dynamics, what's happening in Greater China, there's just so much happening. And with my 8 years here, honestly, I've been through so much, progression, so much innovation, especially with ChinaAMC, that I feel like a week here feels like a year elsewhere.
There are more things to do here compared to Canada.
Yeah, for sure. But I still like Canada. Obviously, please go visit Canada if you love nature.
Of course.
But Hong Kong, I think it's definitely a right time to be right now. There's so much opportunities. There's so much happening in the city. And I think the government here is really ambitious. So very much looking forward to what's to come for me personally and for the organization.
To wrap up, we're going to end with some rapid fire questions, more interesting ones. So growing up, what was originally what you wanted to do, or you just wanted to be right where you are? Like some people want to be teacher, want to be astronaut. Growing up, what did you want to be?
Yeah, I wanted to throw in an anecdote here because it's actually an interesting story. So, in high school, we used to have a yearbook end of each year. And this one particular year, the assignment was for everybody to kind of figure out or suggest what each kid would become eventually when they grow up. And so my classmates decided that I would eventually become a candy shop owner.
Okay.
And that was honestly unexpected. It was unconventional.
Do you like candy?
I used to love candies.
Okay.
Even in my French lesson, I remember saying, I love candies in French. But jokes aside, but I think looking back, what that really reflected was maybe perhaps my classmates saw something in me, the fact that I had sort of an entrepreneurial spirit.
You're not a sort of person working at candy shop. You're running the candy shop. Yes.
Yeah, I feel right at home at ChinaAMC because of the innovative spirit that we have here.
Who's your role model growing up?
I think the first person that comes to mind is my mother. She is super driven. She's very energetic. She always lived by her standards and her values, and I think that had a huge impact on my journey, who I've become. And also just looking back, she's been super liberal at the same time, even though, as kind of Eastern Asian parents, you're kind of always watching your kids back. You have high standards for your kid. It was the same case, but at the same time, she was liberal in the sense that I always had.
Allowed you to go from Canada to London without a plan.
Yeah. So I obviously had her back, and I truly and genuinely think that was a blessing. having a mother that was so open-minded. And that's why I have always been very independent, and I was never to conform to any norms and things that I was not fully satisfied.
Final question. If you were to participate in Olympics, what sport would you play?
Skiing. I love the thrill. I love the feeling of overcoming fear.
Okay, there's definitely a common thread. Like
Yeah.
you like the thrill, you like challenges, you like speed, you like innovation.
Yeah.
Okay. Katie, thank you. Hearing about your journey across ETFs, tokenization, and digital assets in Asia, and your rise in global finance through resilience, innovation, and breaking industry barriers has been truly fascinating. It is a perfect example of the human stories driving this industry forward. We believe in the power of candid dialogues that goes beyond business. We'll continue to look past the hype to find people building things that truly matter here in Hong Kong. That was Katie He on the FTA HK podcast. Thank you for listening, and don't miss an episode. Follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and WhatsApp using the links below. See you in the next one.